Excellencies and distinguished guests, my dear comrades, I'd like to begin by pointing out a profound coincidence of dates. 3 years ago today, on the 3rd of March, 2021, I was arrested following a crackdown on a peaceful demonstration organized by the General Strike Committee. I was 21 years old then, a final year student at Yangon University. During my detention, I experienced interrogation via torture, solitary confinement, abuse, and forced prison change. I still remember clearly how I felt on the date of my release. The mere thought of having to experience the outside world again filled me with great excitement. Yet immediately after I got out and learned the outside world again, I was deeply disappointed. I realized that our world outside had already been a large prison, with masses of people suffering and facing forms of oppression that are far worse than what I had to experience. My experience means nothing compared to their suffering. The lives of our generations are so disorganized and so lost that many have already joined the armed struggle. I realize that when our right to a dignified life is being denied, we are forced to seek dignity in exchange for the ultimate price, death. In other words, we are forced to trade the dignity of life with our very own lives. It is a bitter and an ironic reality. Our generations, young people of Myanmar, have to fight so hard for all the things that are so easily accessible everywhere else in most parts of the world. We are not asking for too much. A dignified life and future, that is all we seek. And this means to be able to return to our homes in a free world, enjoy our lives with our families and friends, continue our learning experience in a free campus. That is all we hope for ourselves. So let me first appreciate this seminar for including the voices and the concerns of young people, an attitude rarely to be found elsewhere, especially within my home country, Myanmar. And of course, it is indeed a distinguished privilege that you have chosen me, particularly as an individual, to represent what the young people of Myanmar think about their country's future. But let me further urge you all here, including Myanmar political leadership from the resistance movement, that we need more representation of young voices and actual young people in the leadership. Now, as to the purpose of this seminar, I believe that for us to formulate possible future scenarios and prepare for what is to come, we must firstly try to gain a deeper understanding of the current situation in Myanmar. We must first recognize the singular and distinguished character of the crisis. It must be pointed out that the current crisis of Myanmar, both in its political dimension and its military dimension, is an event of an unprecedented scale that we have not seen in our history so far since our struggle for independence from colonial rule. In its military dimension, a widespread war covers each and every corner of our country. And even in the areas where there is no physical armed conflict, there is war. A war waged in consciousness, in spirit, and in soul, which, when given any chance, will immediately substantialize into an all-out physical war. We all know that the Burmese military has been relentlessly and continuously trying to bring back the normal order of things since the day they launched the coup. But even after 3 years, it is evident that they are still far from fulfilling their stated aims. Far from that, they are now showing gradual signs of disorganization. The Burmese military is now struggling with a kind of military pressure that they haven't faced in decades. In each and every direction, they are being challenged by the joint forces of ethnic resistant groups, People's Defense Forces, and other resistant groups, independent resistant groups such as People's Liberation Army, Burma People's Liberation Army, and Student Armed Force. Currently, the Burmese military has lost control over a significant number of cities in northern Shan, Karenni, Chin, Arakan, and Kachin states. It must be pointed out that it is mainly the ethnic population and the ethnic armed resistant groups in struggle for their self-determination who are imposing the biggest physical blows to the Burmese military. Undoubtedly, we are seeing the biggest defeats and surrenders and the lowest morale among the rank and file historically. These are the signs that the ideology of ultra-Burmese nationalism and the notion of a unitary and centralized state, the very notions and ideologies upon which the institution of the Burmese military establishes itself upon, the very notions and ideology that have been seen as the foundations of our nation since the time we gained our independence. These very notions and ideology are now losing any of their remaining relevance. It is evident that we are now on a historical turning point, a tryst of historical destiny, where it is no longer possible to organize our nation under the ideology of ultra-Burmese nationalism, Buddhist supremacy, and the notion of a unitary and centralized state. So, this shall be the first point I'll make. The current significant developments in the military dimension materially demonstrate that the old notions and ideologies that serve as the foundations of our nation since 1948 have now lost all their relevance, and that now we are altogether witnessing a tryst of historical destiny, where it is required that we think and invent new ways of order and arrangement. And it also must be understood that the current 2008 constitution, upheld by the Burmese military, is also a part of these old notions and ideologies which have lost all their relevance. With that being said, it is evident that the Burmese military is now facing an existential threat. The notions and ideologies which serve as their foundations are faltering. Their morale is at an all-time low. They are significantly losing manpower, and their influence and control shrinking with each advance made by the resistant forces. And what is more is that they are also conscious that the threat they are facing is existential, and that they are in a life or death struggle to maintain their existence. That is why, in the last month, they announced the enforcement of mandatory military service for young and middle-aged men and women. This enforcement means that the Burmese military, in search for solutions to deal with the shortage of their manpower, will now force the civilian population under their control into war. Ultimately, it means that they will now exploit and appropriate our bodies and our souls as resources in a quest to sustain their existence. According to the United Nations, 18.6 million people, that's nearly 1/3 of our country's population, are in need of humanitarian assistance, and over 2.6 million people are displaced across the country. And with the current enforcement of mandatory military service, which, according to the spokesperson of the junta, will come to action in the next few months, a major humanitarian catastrophe in Myanmar is imminent. Honorable members of Parliament, Excellencies and distinguished guests, unless we take immediate action against the main culprit of the current and upcoming humanitarian disasters, our approach remains superficial, and it will fail in such a manner that the crisis continues to deepen while the root of the problem remains untouched. We must understand that this announcement of mandatory military service is a clear message from the Burmese military. It is a clear message that they have absolutely no will and no consideration whatsoever to deal with the humanitarian disaster currently happening, and that they are even willing to take any action regardless, even if it means bringing a potential humanitarian catastrophe. The Burmese military has clearly shown themselves to be an institution which has absolutely zero will to deal with the problem, but has 100% will to create more problems if it means good for them. So, it will certainly be a questionable thing that we have to see them as partners in dealing with the humanitarian situation in Myanmar. In the meantime, this moment reminds us of our political mission. It reminds us that our political mission is not just to bring down the current ruling junta, which is only a specific instance, a particular formation of a much more universal and deep-rooted political system by which our bodies and our souls are regarded as disposable in their relation to the state. It seems to us that there is a special technology at work, a technology by which it is measured to which extent an individual's body and soul are disposable. We see that this measurement is done in such a manner that the individuals are all the more disposable if they are all the more remote from the dominant class. And we see that this remoteness is measured in 3 dimensions: class, race, and gender. With these 3 dimensions of class, race, and gender taken into account, the system marks each individual with varying degrees of disposability. In short, it is a system that makes us see our own fellow human beings as less human than us on the basis of class, race, and gender. Then our political mission should always be emphasized towards the following vision. It is to push for the end of all political systems of class distinction, gender discrimination, and racial segregation. As our crisis intensifies, we are seeing the system at work everywhere, sometimes even among and within ourselves. But may we never forget the true champion of the system, the Burmese military. Since the coup, the Burmese military, in its quest to assert control, has killed at least over 4,500 civilians. When we put these deaths in numbers, it seems a little bit less severe, because all we get to see here are many military units, not a full human reality. So, let us be reminded that each of these numerical units represents a human life, rich in dignity and infinite in value. Last month, a heartbreaking image circulated all over our internet. It is a scene from a school of small children in Training State who were the victim of an airstrike by the Burmese military. The image depicts a piece of head flesh, still with little hairs on it, stuck onto a wooden peg. It is reported that within the completely shattered school building, pieces of children's flesh scattered all over, here and there, were found, while their owners nowhere to be found. These kinds of atrocities are happening on an everyday basis. Honorable members of Parliament, Excellencies and distinguished guests, each of these little pieces of flesh scattered represents the heavy burden of our civilization. Our civilization will need to make a clear choice. Civilized path or barbarism. And for us, the young people of Myanmar, to really have any chance for a civilized future, it is clear that we must aim for nothing less than a complete liberation of our nation from military rule, and allow our tedious and painstaking struggle for liberation. It is also becoming clearer to us that the only path towards a dignified life is to aim for a future where class distinction, gender discrimination, and racial segregation will have no place within our daily lives. Thank you for your patience. I hope each and everyone here today shares together with us, young people of Myanmar, in our commitment to justice, democracy, and equality. Thank you very much.